Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're on a massive mission to completely conquer what is arguably the most intimidating part of the language exam, the dreaded repeat sentence module. If just thinking about this task makes your palms sweat, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to decode the scoring algorithm and completely flip your entire strategy upside down.
Seriously, have you ever felt exactly like this? You're sitting there in the exam room, the audio finishes playing, and boom, your mind goes completely terrifyingly blank. You panic, right? I can't remember. I didn't understand it. The sentence was literally too long. Listen, I want to start by validating that feeling right now. That sheer panic you feel in that exact second, it is completely universal.
We all put so much pressure on ourselves to have some sort of photographic memory, but here is the massive aha moment that's going to change the game for you. This is actually an evaluation of your listening and speaking skills. It is not a brutal memory contest. Once you stop treating it like a test of your short-term memory, I promise you, this whole module becomes incredibly manageable.
So, to figure out how to beat it, let's look at the structure of the task itself. The concept? Super simple on the surface. Listen and repeat. You might hear an audio prompt like, "Among various heating and cooling systems, central heating proves to be superior." Your job is to immediately repeat what you just heard right into the microphone. Sounds straightforward enough, right? But the secret here isn't in the audio itself. It's actually in how the computer evaluates your response. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the hard data. This chart breaks down exactly how many points are on the line for both the speaking and listening modules. The repeat sentence task carries massive weight across both of these categories. It's basically a make-or-break moment in the exam, and understanding exactly what the algorithm is rewarding and punishing is literally the only way to capture those heavy point values.
And here is the absolute crucial takeaway. Fluency and pronunciation take absolute priority over perfect content. Now think about that, because this is a massive pivot from how we usually approach tests, right? Usually content is king, but here, because of how natural speech actually works, the AI system highly prioritizes how smoothly and clearly you speak over whether you nailed every single syllable flawlessly. Let's actually break down the math to prove this. Look at how forgiving the content scoring actually is. If you manage to repeat just over 50% of the sentence correctly, you secure 2/3 of the available points for content. You don't need 100% to get the majority of the credit. But if you drop below that 50% threshold, you fall to 1/3 of the points. So, that 50% mark, that's your ultimate safety net. But while the content score is forgiving, the fluency score is absolutely ruthless. Here are the strict rules for perfect fluency the algorithm is actively listening for. 0 fumbles or stuttering. Absolutely no hesitation. You've got to maintain a steady pace, a constant flow, and leveled, controlled intonation. Even speaking with an unusually high or low pitch will cause the system to struggle, and boom, your score drops. Basically, fluency is everything here. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate paradox of the exam. On the left, we've got an anxious student trying to remember 100% of the content, but they fumble a word or two while they're thinking. But on the right, a strategic student only repeats 70% of the content, but delivers it with 0 hesitation and perfect flow. Because fluency rules all, the 70% strategy on the right will absolutely outscore the flawless memory attempt on the left. Wild, right?
All right, let's move into section 1, strategy offense, focusing on the less is more approach.
So how do we actually use this grading algorithm to our advantage? Well, we need a tactical playbook for those incredibly intimidating, long sentences that totally test our memory span. When you get a sentence of, say, 12 to 16 words, trying to absorb the whole thing just introduces stress. That extra info turns into hesitation. So the strategy? Intentionally focus on less. By targeting just 8 to 10 words, you drastically decrease your chances of fumbling. You're working within your actual memory capacity to protect that precious fluency score, all while staying safely above that 50% content safety net we talked about. But hold on, there is a crucial guardrail to this less is more strategy. You can't just pick and choose random words from the middle. You absolutely must not skip the first part of the sentence. The beginning of the audio almost always contains the core topic, and the scoring system needs to associate your answer with that specific topic to evaluate it properly. Plus, let's be real, the beginning is usually the easiest part to grasp anyway, because you're paying the most attention right when the audio starts. Now obviously, we have to adapt this strategy based on the length of the audio itself.
If you're dealing with a long 12 to 16-word sentence, absolutely apply the less is more rule. Drop the end of the sentence to stay fluent. But if the sentence is incredibly short, like only 6 or 7 words, you have to speak the full sentence. If you only repeat 60% of a 7-word sentence, that's like, 4 words? That simply doesn't give the computer enough material to grade your English.
Let's move on and see how this builds in Section 2. Defense, avoiding common exam traps.
Because knowing what to do is really only half the battle. Knowing what to avoid is just as crucial. Let's bust a massive myth right now about how people try to trick the software. In the past, people thought they could game the system by just adding extra filler words like in, for, the, a, or an, hoping they'd get lucky and hit a word from the original sentence. Guys, do not do this. Modern AI is way too smart for that. It is not going to reward you for a lucky shot of random prepositions. Doing this will literally just ruin your fluency and tank your score.
Here's another disastrous step-by-step trap you have to avoid. Imagine this. Step 1, the audio ends, the timer starts, you get the signal to speak. Step 2, you take a long pause because you're desperately searching your brain for the exact words. Step 3, complete disaster. If too much time passes before you start speaking, the software just detects silence and will automatically nullify your entire answer. A long wait means an automatic 0. You just have to open your mouth and start speaking immediately. And that leads us to the ultimate frequently asked question, really the biggest dilemma test takers face here. Should I take notes while the audio is playing? Take a second and think about your own habits. When you hear a long, complicated sentence, is your very first instinct to grab a pen? Well, here is the hard truth for the vast majority of us. Writing simply takes way longer than speaking. The audio in this task is fast. If you try to write down the sentence, you're barely going to get anything down. And worse, the physical act of writing is going to severely distract your brain from its most important job, actively listening. For most people, attempting to write down the sentence will just completely derail them. Now, there is one very specific exception to this rule. If your note-taking skills are genuinely exceptional, like you have years of experience using your own highly refined university-level shorthand, then yeah, you might be able to pull it off using a quick word code. But keep in mind, you can't use your own pen and paper. You have to use the test center's erasable notepad and markers. And honestly, you still aren't going to have time to rearrange those notes before the timer forces you to speak. Ultimately, you've got to find what works best for you. And honestly, that should bring you a lot of peace of mind. By practicing this less is more strategy, you can comfortably discover your true listening capacity. Training yourself to just grab those 8 to 10 words without fumbling, it completely dissolves the anxiety. You'll quickly realize you definitely don't need a superhuman memory to get a great score. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on before you hit the books again. When that audio stops and the microphone turns red, will you rely on panicked memory, desperately trying to catch every single syllable? Or will you master the art of strategy, confidently delivering a smooth, fluent response that the algorithm absolutely loves? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks for tuning into this explainer and happy studying.